Before this video begins, I would like to say that this video will contain subjects like child abuse, sexual abuse, and possible murder. Please also note that no one is guilty until proven otherwise in a court of law. This video will contain material that may be considered sensitive to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. I think the thing that was most moving about the case was the fact that Alissa's sister, Sarah Turney, has kept her name alive so that the case may be looked at a new angle and a new set of fresh eyes. It hits me close at home, not only as someone who witnessed a very close friend that I considered a sister go through abuse by her own father, but also as someone who has also faced sexual abuse. This case has always hit close to home for me, and now I want to share Alissa's story with you all. Alissa was 17 years old when she went missing, the same age I am while I make the script and record this video as well as edit it. She also disappeared in 2001, the year I was born. She lived in Phoenix, Arizona and went to Paradise Valley High School. Alissa was born to Barbara Strom in 1984. Barbara eventually got remarried to Micheal Turney only 3 years later in 1987. Micheal also had children from his previous marriage, this being 3 sons. However, according to Micheal, the family wasn't even allowed to use the term step, as the family was so close that there was no need for it. The two had Sarah, Alissa's sister, who now advocates on her behalf, and the family would be referred to as the Brady Bunch family. Unfortunately, their mother would be diagnosed with lung cancer and die in 1993. Alissa went missing on May 17, 2001, the last day of her junior year in high school. On this day, Micheal would pick her up from school early, and before she left, she said goodbye to her boyfriend, and that she would see him later on that day. Micheal claims that he and Alissa got into a fight after she had asked to go to a party, and he said that he wanted to know where she was going and to be home at a certain time. According to Micheal, Alissa was very angry and did not want Micheal to know where she was and that she wanted to be out as late as she wanted. Micheal claims that Alissa went to her room in anger and he went to pick up Sarah and run a few errands. He says that he called her, but that there was no answer at home. Sarah recalls the events as such.
My dad picked me up that day. I didn't notice anything weird about his behavior. He seemed frantic that Alissa wasn't answering her phone, but he was pretty frantic about her behavior anyway, so it wasn't anything strange. The only thing that was kind of weird that I just realized a few years ago really was that day I was smoking cigarettes with my friends, and now smoking cigarettes was pretty much one of my only rules with my dad. Of course, a 12-year-old you probably shouldn't let smoke cigarettes, but it was especially close to his heart because our mother had passed of lung cancer from smoking cigarettes, so that was one of the huge rules in my house. So I had to smell like cigarettes. It was only moments before that I was probably smoking these cigarettes, and then I got into his truck. There was no way he didn't smell it, so now looking back on it, that's so weird. The day Alissa went missing was the last day of 7th grade for me. We were on a field trip to a water park, and we got back to the school probably about 3:30 when school was supposed to be let out anyway. My dad wasn't there, so I walked to a friend's house, which was pretty normal. I would walk to this friend's house all the time after school. They lived very close by. We were very good friends. We had smoked some cigarettes at my friend's house and just doused each other with perfume right before he got there. So the whole time I'm thinking that for sure I'm going to be in trouble for smoking cigarettes. It was one of my only rules. I would have been in huge trouble. He says nothing about that, and instead he says, "Will you call your sister? She's not answering her cell phone." I call again and again and again, and there's no answer. So we get to the house probably about 10 minutes later. It was a relatively short drive, and I went straight to her room. I noticed that her backpack was dumped out all over the ground, and then I heard the buzzing on her dresser, and that was where I found her cell phone and then the note.
As you can tell from the clip, Sarah not only talks about the suspicion she had about smoking with her friend and that Micheal not realizing it, but that her father did not even pick her up right away. And of course, when she arrived home, Alissa was nowhere to be found, but instead a note. This note said that Alissa had enough saved in her bank account and was leaving for California. However, Alissa never withdrew any of her money. Alissa as a person has been described to be outgoing, but was also your average teen. She went to parties, she spent more time with her boyfriend and friends than her studies, which I can relate to, caring more about your friends and loved ones than school.
What you should know about Alissa is that she was strong and caring and kind. and she tried to spread happiness in this world. She was always up for anything. She was spontaneous and so much fun. She did typical teenage things. She went to the mall, she hung out with friends. It was nothing crazy.
But Micheal claims that she was an unruly child and had almost no control over her. Of course, people like Sarah say that this was not the case.
You would have to watch over Alissa to make sure that she didn't put herself in harm's way. And again, she was talking about running away, so monitor phone calls.
Did you go to her place of work?
Oh, I certainly did. I would go there and check to make sure. Once I had suspected she was not being there when she said she was going to be there, I went and checked.
What would you do when you went there?
Just to look at her, to watch where she's working at, make sure everything's okay.
Now, I bet you are wondering, why did Micheal pick her up early? There was no real need for it. But he claims that this was because that Alissa was going to break up with her boyfriend, but she wanted to avoid him. But this contradicts the statements given by friends and her boyfriend on campus with her saying that they acted totally fine. And again, she had said goodbye to her boyfriend before she left. Sarah speaks about the difference in the relationship that Micheal had with her and the one that he had with Alissa.
My relationship with my father was really great when I was a kid. We were very close. He was my only parent and I definitely clung to him. I was definitely a daddy's girl. But our relationship was so different than the relationship he had with Alissa. He would closely monitor Alissa. He didn't do that to me. I was free to do as I wanted. If you look at how I was treated when I was 17 years old and the way Alissa was treated when she was 17 years old, it's night and day. At 17, she wasn't allowed to go to parties. She wasn't allowed to go drink with friends, which of course is completely fine. You don't let your 17-year-old drink. But he was so strict and monitored everything she did. When I was 17, my boyfriend moved into the house. My father bought me a mini fridge and filled it with beer. It's just completely different.
From this, you can see how much Micheal watched Alissa in a very unhealthy way. Even my parents, who are seen as pretty strict, have never monitored my phone calls or came to my place of work in fear that I was not there. And that is what strikes everyone as odd, is Micheal's shift in attitude for Sarah versus Alissa. But if he was recording everything, where's the tape and footage from when Alissa left? Micheal has apparently destroyed this information, claiming that there was nothing to see, even though we could have seen what she was wearing when she left, what she left in, what she took with her, and other things that would have been considered vital information if she was gone for this long. A week after Alissa went missing, Micheal claims that he received a call from Alissa herself, but that the voice was weird and scrambled. He could still tell that it was Alissa, and that he heard her say, "Leave me alone," before the call was cut off. But where is this audio from the man who records all his incoming calls? Gone, just like the footage. He did conveniently, though, have footage of Alissa and her boyfriend fighting. It should also be noted that Alissa's boyfriend claims that he would try and orchestrate fights between him and Alissa, and that there seemed to be somewhat of a jealousy thing between Micheal and Alissa's boyfriend. It should be noted that in 2006 a serial killer had claimed that he murdered Alissa, but his claims were quickly brushed off as he claimed things that were simply not true, like Alissa having a drug addiction. It wasn't until 2008, 7 years after she had gone missing, that Micheal had turned footage to police and that they found out about his cameras in his home. That is when they searched the home and found contracts between Micheal and Alissa where she had to state that he never sexually abused her, one even being dated the day before her disappearance. This is when the accusations from family and friends come out about Micheal abusing Alissa. One comment allegedly coming from the nephew of Micheal that had been found on Kendall Ray's video, which will be linked, reads, "First, Mike had contacted me on the behest of my stepfather Lyle Grayman. Sorry if I butchered that name. Mike and Lyle were concocting a wrongful death lawsuit to sue the hospital and a few doctors over my mother's sudden death. When Mike called me that he was having a hard time trying to take care of Alissa and Sarah and asked me if I could stay with him to help him with his daughters because of his health issues. I did not ask him if I could move in with him. I already had a place. I was not homeless or destitute, as he has claimed over the years. He also said he needed financial help as well, so I believed his stories and thought I could help him. It wasn't until a few years later that I realized his true intention was to get me involved with this lawsuit and to convince my late brother as well, because these idiots had an attorney file a class action lawsuit. Back then, I was drinking alcohol, heavily. I was self-medicating because I was a combat veteran, and my mother had just died. One night, I came home and found a VHS tape that clearly had Alissa and I believe one of her friends posing nude. As soon as I saw that, I called a friend to come pick me up immediately, and I left hastily. The next day, I called my mom's mother and sister to tell them what I had found at Mike's house. When I spoke to them, they were not terribly shocked because they were suspicious of Mike having an inappropriate relationship with Alissa. I wish that I had called CPS and reported this, but I didn't. I live with this every day because I was a coward. Mike didn't kick me out. He didn't take me in because I was destitute. When I was approached by the Phoenix PD via a flyer about Alissa in 2008, I decided that I needed to do the right thing and come forward with what I knew. And I still will. I loved Mike Turney. He was more of a father to me than my real and stepfather. Sorry if I misread that. I truly wanted to aspire to be like him. I don't want any attention, and I do not seek attention. This isn't about me. This is about a 17-year-old girl whose life was snuffed out because her stepfather didn't want anyone to know of his dirty secret. Mike Turney killed her, and the truth will come out. My heart goes to Sarah and her brothers and the hell that they have and still endure. In 2011, Micheal was arrested, but not for anything regarding the alleged abuse or disappearance of Alissa, but for his planned attack on the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, a union. He claims that they were behind Alissa's disappearance, despite him insisting for years before that she simply ran away. Micheal planned to set off explosives and kill himself to quote-unquote raise awareness for Alissa. Micheal claims that they were upset and that he had filed a complaint of sorts about working conditions, and that is why, in his mind, kidnapped and killed Alissa. This is what Sarah has to say about it.
So my thoughts on the union is, first of all, I would love to apologize to the union for everything that my father has done. I am so sorry that anyone has to live in fear, be afraid, or that they had to get bulletproof windows. I mean, that just has to be a completely terrible way to live your life and to work, and I know nothing I can do can make it better, but I am so sorry that you had to go through that. But I think that the union is completely blown out of proportion. It's my understanding that when my father first got into the union that he had complained of working conditions and that he was getting some type of harassing phone calls that my brothers can verify, and that there was one incident in person, and this was back in the early 80s or possibly even the 70s that this happened. So I think these small incidents, this one group of people that were kind of picking on my dad maybe, just got totally blown out of proportion. I don't think anything happened after that. I don't think anyone was after him this entire time. I don't think they had anything to do with my sister. I think that they are really a scapegoat for his anger. I think that he has found a target that he can look at that is tangible for him and that he can plan something towards. It's just completely horrible. I think that there's absolutely no connection.
There are only seemingly two theories on what happened to Alissa. The first is that Micheal killed her. This is believed by most people and many family members, even Michael's sons and Sarah.
I think my father took Alissa out into the middle of the desert, tried to sexually assault her like he had done many times in the past. She fought back. She said she was going to tell someone, and he snapped. He was very familiar with the desert. He was in law enforcement. He would know what to do. He had probably thought out what to do many times before this. I think he buried her relatively close. I think that he came home, washed up, set the scene, and then came and picked me up. I think he intended for me to walk right into her room and to find these things. Why was I the first one to enter the room? Why did I find the cell phone and I found the note? As a parent, wouldn't you rush ahead to go find any trace of your daughter that you're so frantic about from the beginning? And then he called the police 5 hours later, very nonchalantly, saying that she had just run away to an aunt's house, that he knew where she was. That's not the way you report your missing child if you intend for someone to look for them. But he didn't. He didn't intend for anyone to look for her. There was no search party that night. He knew exactly what he was doing.
And the other being that Alissa did run away and is living currently in California. It is important that if you have any information about Alissa, please contact the people down below, as well as check out this petition for this case to put Micheal Turney to trial if you believe that he is guilty. For updates, I will also link Sarah's Twitter, and I do hope that soon Sarah and the rest of the family have closure to this case. As I said before, this case hits me hard as I had a very close friend who has since passed, who was in a very abusive and toxic family situation, and I wish I would have spoke out, and I wish I would have gone to CPS, because I do believe that if I had, she wouldn't be gone today. If you are a survivor of abuse and need someone to talk to, here is the abuse hotline numbers, and please get help if you find yourself or someone you care about in an abusive position. If you liked this video, please leave a like. If you have any updates or more information that I seem to miss, please leave them in the comments below, and tell me if there are any cases you would like to see me speak up about. And subscribe if you like content like this. And please spread hashtag Justice for Alissa. I'll see you all next time.